Hey friends, it's not global warming, it's global warning. Sister Jan Markell on climate change said that the globalists are pushing their climate change agenda. Oh, they want climate change. They'll soon have it. Wait till the tribulation hits. Is our climate changing drastically? Yes, it surely is. And it's doing it at the command of Jesus Christ. The changes are taking place in preparation of the coming judgment on the whole world that will take place in the time of Jacob's trouble. What can mankind do to stop it? Nothing. Zero. Zilch. But there's something you can do to prepare for it. Flight 777 on Titus 213 Airlines is now boarding. No seats needed because on this flight, you're the plane. Creation is groaning. Our planet is going through extreme and severe changes that are unlike anything we have ever seen before. And global weather patterns are going completely insane as a result. In the winter of 2020, record cold temperatures were being shattered all over the globe, and we are witnessing snowfall totals that were absolutely crazy in many areas. Now in 2020, summer has arrived in the northern hemisphere, and extreme weather events are making headlines every single day. We have witnessed apocalyptic flooding in Western Europe and China. A massive fire in Oregon has burned an area larger than the entire city of LA. And Brazil has announced to the world that it will have crop losses that are historic in nature. All throughout history, there have been natural disasters, but these days we are facing with endless series of droughts, floods, heat waves, mudslides, wildfires, and crop failures. An intense deluge over a period of 2 days caused unprecedented flooding in much of the nation, and Angela Merkel found it difficult to find words to describe the utter devastation that she personally witnessed. In fact, one Greek politician used the term biblical catastrophic to describe the level of destruction in one particular city. Only Brazil exports more corn than the United States does, and so Brazilian production is one of the keys that enables us to feed everyone on the planet. Unfortunately, this year, we are being told that crop losses in Brazil are going to be historic. Here in the U.S., the western third of the nation is in the midst of a multi-year mega drought that is worse than we have ever experienced. Last year, approximately 20% of the West was considered to be experiencing severe drought. At the same time, there were also massive protests in the heart of Paris. On the other side of the globe, we continue to see violent protests in Sydney and Australian cities. Just 10 days after record flooding killed 37 people in Western Europe, Belgium was hit by a flood that was so powerful that it literally plucked up vehicles and carried them along like little toy cars. Last week, more than 1 million people were forced from their homes by flooding in China that was so extreme that it only is supposed to happen one time in 1,000 years. Thousands upon thousands of birds are suddenly dropping dead in the eastern half of the United States, and authorities still don't understand why this is happening. Famine is now erupting in Africa, and things are particularly bad in the island of Madagascar. The bootleg fire in Oregon has already burned an area that is larger than the entire city of Los Angeles. It was being reported that the bootleg fire was so large that it could be seen from space. The Pope is a passionate believer in the Great Reset and said in a recent interview, "We need change." The Pope of climate change has announced a global climate crisis, a pathway to the New World Order. Greta Thunberg has a machine behind her globalist climate alarmist machine. The climate change agenda lockdowns are next. The globalists could use this agenda to execute cyber polygon, stating that because of extreme usage of the power grids across the globe, it's causing extreme damage to Mother Earth. And there will outgo the lights. So this watchman on the wall fully recognizes that something of the last day's significance is taking place almost daily. There are indeed phenomenal weather events, and they are unprecedented. Multiple numbers occurring almost simultaneously in most every part of the planet. The way and others who are likewise watchmen differ from the leftists who claim that there is climate change, as they see it as man-made, while it is clearer as we see it as God-induced. They are making globalist elite engendered Mother Earth worship system to do exactly that, they think. It is a foreboding weather storm warning from on high. The tsunamis that's coming is the tribulation. The Lord, we sense, is warning of things to come by the way of his judgment and wrath. Prime Minister of Israel, Bennett, the world is currently in the eye of the storm of the Delta pandemic, and the entire world is turning red. Even the Olympics, for the first time in history, are being held without spectators. Digital health passports, the snare that will lure many into the New World Order. This digital trap has already been set, and globalist elites are using COVID to speed up the process of convergence. Most people will sleepwalk right into the trap, which will ultimately reduce them to a human QR code, trackable, traceable, and 100% dependent on big tech and big government for their existence. What we are witnessing is an epic global struggle for freedom, and the outcome of that struggle is going to greatly shape what our world is going to look like in the years ahead. Ultimately, one of the most fundamental rights that we have is the right to make our own health decisions. If someone else has the authority to make those decisions for you, then you aren't really free. The pandemic has transformed the debate over health freedom into the most hotly contested political issue on the entire planet, and the intensity seems to have been turned up a few more notches in recent days. As governments around the world have begun instituting new lockdowns, new mandates, and new health passports, we have seen huge eruptions of anger all over the world. For example, over the weekend, there was an enormous health freedom protest in London. At the same time, there was also massive protests in the heart of Paris. On the other side of the globe, we see protests in Australia. Now, we also remember that the vaccine was not created for the pandemic. It's the other way around. The pandemic was created for the vaccine. So why are globalists and governments so desperate for a 100% vaccination rate? Well, some people may be confused about the obvious lockstep that most nations are moving in as far as COVID mandates and restrictions are concerned. How is it possible that almost all the governments on the planet are in agreement on medical tyranny? Well, it's rather easy to understand when you realize that the majority are linked together through globalist institutions like the World Economic Forum, which has repeatedly called the pandemic a perfect opportunity to push through their plans for a Great Reset, which is their endgame. The Great Reset is a long-term ideological usurpation of what's left of individual freedom and free market economies, and its goal, mark this, its goal is the imposition of a global socialist communist dictatorship. Globalists wrap these objectives in pretty sounding words and humanitarian sounding aspirations, but at the bottom, the reset is about just that, an end to liberty as we know it. Transhumanism, traceability, and the Great Reset agenda. How to track and trace every human person, purchase and protein on the planet, and manipulate human behavior. The technological framework is laid to track and trace every person, purchase, and protein on the planet, with the potential applications of invasive technologies championed by the World Economic Forum's Great Reset agenda. In today's digital world, almost every citizen is aware that their online activity is being monitored, but not everyone knows the full extent, nor are they fully conscious of how track and trace surveillance can manipulate the behavior. Their preamble is, tracking and tracing can be complementary to transhumanism by the way of biometric sensors that can be implanted into the human body or via synthetic biological alterations to farm and lab-grown food that people eat. The people. Tracking and tracing people in real time via smart devices, wearables, and implants can allow intimate health and geolocational and behavioral data to flow between public and private entities and can grant access to or restrict a person's ability to use essential goods and services. The purchases. All financial transactions can be tracked and traced digitally through a central bank digital currency. And the power to purchase and access goods and services can be altered for any individual at the flick of a virtual switch. The protein. Food grown in farms and labs can be tracked and traced along the supply chain, where every ingredient that a citizen consumes can be monitored or accounted for, while biological alterations to the food source itself may have the potential to change gene function on the opposite end of the pipeline. What are the possibilities? Well, the ability to fundamentally alter what it means to be human can be achieved through biological and technological means. All data can be consolidated into a digital identity that is unique to each individual, which can give public and private entities unfettered access and insights into the mind, body, and spirit of every person on the planet, who then can be manipulated, coerced, and incentivized into changing their behavior. Any package, pallet, or container can now be equipped with a sensor, transmitter, or radio frequency, an RFID tag that allows a company to track where it is as it moves through the supply chain, how it is performing, how it is being used, and so on. Now, it says in the near future, similar monitoring systems will also be applied to the movement and tracking of people. Can we not see Revelation 13, where you will not be able to buy or sell without the mark, coming to pass? The Bible is true. Trust Jesus Christ today. All of these signs that I've given you are things that are happening right now. The stage is being set prophetically for the one world government of Antichrist to take place. And if you choose to partake, you will eat of the wrath of God. But if you choose to reject it and trust Jesus Christ, He will save you. God bless.